Gear Tasting Radio is brought to you by Imminent Threat Solutions. ITS provides knowledge that empowers individuals with indispensable skill sets to explore the world and prevail against all threats. Right now, as a special thank you for all podcast listeners, we're offering 10% off in the ITS store. Simply use the code GTR to save 10% at store.itstactical.com. Welcome to Gear Tasting Radio, where we offer an in-depth look into the usage and philosophy behind the equipment in our lives. I am joined, as always, by Rob Henderson.
Hello.
And I am Bryan Black. And today we're going to be talking to you about some precision rifle stuff. I just got back from a pretty cool weekend where I got the opportunity to make a precision rifle shot at 1 mile, and I did make it. It was amazing. It was probably the coolest thing I think I've done in a long time, and I wanted to kind of share my experience with that, as well as kind of talk about some of the precision rifle fundamentals and basics that kind of went into how I was able to achieve that. So for those of you that are into precision rifle, some of this may be a little bit repetitive in terms of stuff you already know, but for those of you that aren't into precision rifle and are looking to get into it, hopefully I can kind of shed some light on what it takes to be able to accomplish something like that. And I'm not boasting, because honestly, you have to have quality equipment and a quality rifle to begin with. I mean, there's only so many fundamentals that go into that. What's the saying is, it's not the gun behind the dummy, it's the dummy behind the gun. So,
like that.
It's very much fundamentals that even made that possible, but you still have to have a really good platform to be able to do that with.
Yeah.
And to have the ballistics to reach out to a mile, and that's the important part too.
Yep.
So, basically that comes down to ballistic coefficient. And one of the reasons I chose the kind of rifle I chose whenever I was building it is because of that ballistic coefficient. So the 6.5 Creedmoor is the cartridge I used, and that's been gaining popularity a lot lately, especially in the last couple of years in terms of what people are building in the precision rifle world. And it's a gun that I, kind of detailed building on Gear Tasting and some other stuff on the site. I've written some articles about it, so we'll definitely throw that in the episode until if you're curious about exactly what went into the build that I had with accurate ordnance and the Night Force scope and everything that I had on there. So one of the coolest things I think that those that are into precision rifle will kind of maybe be in disbelief about is that I made that shot with a $1,200 scope from Night Force, which is pretty amazing, because to have the glass to be able to reach out to that distance, and
yeah, it's got to be tough to even see.
It is. It's very tough, and I could see it okay. I'm not going to say it was a perfect sight picture, but at the end of the day, I still made a hit, and that's what counts.
Right.
I think it was anywhere between a 3rd round hit and a 5th round hit. I'm not really sure exactly what it was, because there was some questioning whether the 3rd round hit or whether it didn't hit until the 5th round. We were kind of going back and forth, because it was tough. Even through a really good spotting scope, which my shooting partner Kelly had. He has a Miopta, I think is how you pronounce it, shooting scope, or a spotting scope. And I mean, it's like an $1,800 piece of glass for a spotting scope, so it's not cheap by any means, but it was providing a pretty good sight picture. And he was also using a Night Force attacker on his 6.5 Creedmoor that he was shooting too, so he was spotting me through the scope at some point, and then at some point he moved to the spotting scope as well. So it was kind of a combination of those, and I was just behind the gun, and I'm not really sure what he was looking at what point. But he was helping me, call my shots too, and I was able to see, the kick up too. Just, the thing about shooting precision rifle is the gun's going to jump on you. As you shoot, the recoil is going to be absorbed through your body, and that sight picture is going to move on you. And the difference between a good shooter and a bad shooter is one that can get back on that sight picture sooner rather than later, to see where their round went, because that's what tells you where you need to go next. If you can see your miss, then you can correct on your own and actually make the shot. Yeah. Okay. And that's why military snipers are so precise, is they don't often have that luxury of taking a follow-up shot. It's kind of the old one shot, one kill adage. So I'm certainly not there yet.
Yeah.
I have made some first round hits, obviously, in my precision rifle career, what it's been. But, for the most part, it's definitely a skill all in itself to just be able to make a first-round hit. And that's trusting your dope. So, dope is data on previous engagement. And that type of information is what kind of gives you the elevation that you need to dial into your scope to be able to get that. So it's there's a lot of variables.
So when you're on your scope, are you at full magnification for a mile?
So I was, when I shot the mile, I was, but when we were shooting, let me think. So some of the shots out to 1,000 we were taking, there was a match involved in this too. So this was kind of a weekend event. There was a ELD match, so extreme long distance match that was, saw ranges out to a mile. So there was a kind of a competition involved in it, but then there was also kind of a fun shoot where you got to, do what you wanted to do to, to try to get out to a mile.
A mix.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So during some of the stuff, some of those 1,000 shots, I was actually at 8 power magnification, which I didn't even mean to be. I just kind of looked at the scope later and went, oh shit, I was only
not
at
far enough
8x.
in.
Yeah. And it goes up to 14 on that scope I was using. It's an SHV 4 to 14 F150 or something like that. I can't remember the exact nomenclature of the model number, but that's pretty much it. And it's one of Night Force's newer scopes, and it's kind of their more, I don't want to call them cheap, but more
budget.
Yeah,
conscious.
More budget conscious scopes, because it's still got really great glass in it, and it's still a first focal plane scope, which is important too.
Well, it's still a $1,200 optic too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
so
good.
it's no joke, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people get into shooting and try to make long distance shots without really understanding the amount of money that they have to spend on glass to be able to get out to that distance too. So I was optimistic that I'd be able to do. I don't know if I didn't go into it thinking I was going to make a mile.
Yeah,
I really didn't. I thought that the distance would outclass the scope, I guess.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So I thought I wouldn't have enough scope to make that shot. And I did have to compensate, so I ran out of elevation adjustment on my scope, and I had to hold over.
So that's what I was curious about.
Yeah, so I had to hold over. So there's only 20 mils of adjustment in the turrets for elevation on that SHV scope that I have. So it actually took me 3.5 mils over the adjustment to make that shot. So I had to hold over 3.5 mils.
And so now you're holding, that's above the target, 3.5 mils?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was holding over, so above the target, 3.5 mils, and then I was holding left 1.5 mils. That was the wind compensation.
Damn. Okay.
So the way that I've learned to shoot precision rifle is you're never dialing for wind, meaning that you know how in a scope you've got an elevation adjustment and then you've got a windage adjustment. You don't actually set the windage.
Just move it.
Yeah, you just zero the windage when you first zero the gun.
Gotcha.
And then you actually just compensate based on the reticle inside your scope to compensate for wind depending on what it's doing.
Is that for ease?
It's fast.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
not anything mechanical.
Yeah, it's ease. I mean, it's definitely quick, and that's really why people do it.
Okay.
Because it allows you to shoot faster, really. Because if you're worrying about dialing for wind, then if the wind dies down, you got to dial back, and it's very complicated. So the one thing I really like on the SHV scope too is the windage adjustment is it's got a cap that covers it, so you can't even accidentally bump the windage. There's actually a cap that goes over it, which
locks
is nice.
It down.
Yeah.
Is the elevation like that?
No, the elevation
That's
moves as a turret. So you always just got to remember your post-shot checklist, which is to turn it down back to 0 after you shoot, because you never know where it's at on the turret adjustment if
Gotcha.
you don't. So
Okay.
yeah, it's kind of cool. Again, I thought I was going to run out of scope, which I did, but luckily enough, there was enough in the reticle to be able to compensate and still make the hit, which is interesting.
At 14x, how big inside of the scope window as you're looking through is your target? I mean, is it visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay.
So at a mile, I'd say the target itself maybe took up 1/8 of the overall viewable area within the scope. So I wasn't looking at too much. Like there really wasn't, like I couldn't see the target super well.
Sure.
But luckily it was white and orange, so it had kind of an orange flag on the top that moved as the target got hit. So you kind of had that movement indicator, which is very important if you're shooting a target at that distance, because it's tough to see. Like even at 1,000, it's tough to see impacts on the actual target itself, because sometimes what you'll see is splash from the target.
So you'll think you're hitting.
Because it was all steel, so sometimes what you'll see is the splash from the bullet kind of creating that squall line on the basically in the dirt.
Yeah.
So
you
it
may not
actually
be getting the hit
so
you
you
think.
actually may have got the impact, but then you saw something hit the ground and thought, oh, it was a miss. You're low.
Gotcha.
When actually it was just the bullet
Yeah.
disintegrating and hitting the ground.
And what size target was it?
So the target at a mile was 16 inches. I think.
That's
So
small.
It's very small. It's like It's like a 1 MOA target at a mile or something like that. I think if I remember what they were saying correctly.
That's pretty crazy.
I can't think of the math in my head right now, but
yeah.
I think it's a very small target. That's why it was super small in my scope too.
Yeah.
So, but still, I mean, 16 inches is a pretty big target when you're looking at it in person. But then when you get out to a mile, it's
that's not
pretty
much.
tiny. Yeah. So imagine trying to hit a man-sized target at a mile.
Yeah.
Super hard. You know, because I mean, the width of a body is, I don't know. I guess
say about 16.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. Maybe shoulders.
Because when you shoot it like an
Shoulders might
Ipswich
be
target,
16.
the center circle's 8. So
Yeah.
it'd be double that.
Yeah.
That's still not a big area.
Yeah.
I mean, a mile that's a big
Yeah.
distance.
I mean, there's that sniper that got something like 2.3 miles or something like that.
I don't even
It's like,
understand that.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Yeah.
Like aircraft assisted.
Yeah. Yeah, literally when I shot, it was like I could just kind of relax, look through my scope, and then it hit. You know, it's like
that's a long...
there were seconds, man. So, well, if you think about it, 32.5 mils is like, how many feet is that? That's like
At 1,000.
70 something feet into the air I was shooting the bullet. I mean, it's just nuts.
Wow.
Man. Yeah.
And what's the velocity of your round?
So starting velocity, I don't know what it was at a mile.
Yeah.
But starting velocity, I think, is somewhere in the neighborhood of 2250.
Okay, so it's
50 feet
traveling,
per second.
what is a mile? It's like 5,300 something or 5,700 feet. So, I mean, it's going to,
something like
you
that,
said,
yeah.
several seconds. That's nuts.
1,760 yards. So,
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy.
That's got to be a cool delay.
Yeah. The ballistic coefficient is an interesting thing, too, just because, so the ballistic coefficient isn't, the velocity isn't super high like on a 50 caliber round, but they've got such a good ballistic coefficient that it maintains that velocity for so long.
Okay.
That's
Doesn't
kind of
start to drop.
That's kind of where the 50 comes into play. Because if you look at a 50 cartridge, you're like, oh my god, it's a ton of freaking powder in there.
Yeah.
It's just a monster cartridge.
Yeah.
And really, what you're gaining with that is just velocity. What do you call it? Consistency. You got consistency in the velocity.
Well, I mean, it's like throwing a hammer.
Yeah.
Like, so that's a lot to have to.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and the really cool thing about it is that when I first started shooting this rifle, and I started using a Kestrel, so I've got a Kestrel that I use that basically has an applied ballistic software, so it's giving me ballistic calculations based on variables like density, altitude, which constitutes temperature and pressure and other things going on
like
in the
thickness
environment.
of the atmosphere.
Yeah, so
Gotcha.
a good way to say it is environmental. So the things that are happening in the environment you're at, because we were shooting at like -5 below sea level is what the elevation wound up being.
Okay.
So that's actually tougher, and the bullet travels less than it would at higher altitude
the air's thicker.
the air's thinner at higher altitude,
Right.
so you can actually shoot farther. So, like, let's say with a 308 cartridge, it tops out at somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000, 1,100 at kind of sea level. But if you get into high elevations, you can sometimes get that out to 1,300 or 1,400 yards. Depending on variables.
And what does 6.5 top out at sea level? Approximately.
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, that's why.
Gotcha.
That's why I wanted to shoot a mile, because I haven't known what that is.
So it's farther than a mile.
Yeah,
That's
I
good.
mean, possibly.
So is 6.5 and 308 kind of in the same realm?
Similar.
Okay.
Yeah, similar. I think the 6.5 Creedmoor is based on a 264 cartridge, if I remember correctly.
Okay, so a little smaller in diameter?
I don't know. It's still
still don't
technically
know that.
like a 308 cartridge,
Okay.
but yeah, I'm not super up to.
Wait,
up
I'm
to date
thinking.
on that too.
So fractions, 0.262 would be larger than 0.308, right?
264, yes, would
I'm
be.
terrible at math, so
Yeah, it would be larger.
Okay, that makes sense.
Believe. I think I'm.
Yes,
I'm terrible
This
with
is all
math.
the math.
Too, so
I just had to go get a calculator today to
two
do like a
people
really simple
terrible with
calculation.
math on a podcast and see what happens.
This isn't math tasting.
Yeah, but some of the gear that I use, like I said, that rifle was built by Accurate Ordnance, and you got to start with a solid, capable platform first, and they have a phenomenal build process, and I got to see it in person when I was there visiting them, but not for the build. We kind of took a tour at another time. We were in that area near Georgia, but they have a phenomenal facility. Mark there is an awesome guy, and he's literally a wealth of information when it comes to precision rifle. And I can't tell you how many conversations I had with him, just kind of educating me through the process of that build whenever we were making that happen. Because largely with that build, there's not a lot I can do. Like I kind of gathered the parts, and Mark kind of
like
did all the machining. Yeah. It's not a Lego set like an AR is. So absolutely. So I feel like you've got like your AR, which is like basic Lego construction. Then you got your AK, which is definitely actually
a little bit more hardcore machining.
Yeah,
type.
It's really construction. And then precision rifle is just a whole nother level above that. Yeah. So Mark assembled that for me. It was based on the stock that I went with is from Graybow, which is loosely based on the Macmillan stock design. And then the Night Force optic that I had on top, and then Badger Ordnance, provided the rings and some of the rail systems, the bottom metal, things like that. So
nice.
Yeah.
So in the gear that you took, was there anything that you were missing that you were like kicked yourself for not bringing?
Actually, not this time.
Awesome.
I usually have something that I wish I would have brought, and I really didn't have something. I do wish I would have shut the lid on my rifle case. That's the only thing that I regretted during my shooting.
Did you get any creepy crawlies?
No, it was because of the 50 that was shooting next to me. It kept blowing crap into my rifle case, and like I was shooting at the time, so I couldn't stop and shut my rifle case, so I just kind of had to deal with it. But now I got to clean my rifle case. First world problem.
Yeah, it could be worse things.
Yeah. No, the 50 is definitely a beast, and my friend Kelly has one, and it's just witnessing those shoot is just. It just shakes you when you're next to it, spotting for it. When
you were looking to build a rifle, did you even consider 50?
No, that's way above where I want to be with capability, I guess. I like the idea that I could possibly hit something in a mile, because, like I said, it took me 3 to 5 shots to make that hit at a mile.
Yeah.
But, again... that's I think the limit of my capability. I mean, it's an awesome goal. I'm super glad it was on my bucket list to make a shot at a mile, so I get to cross that one off.
Hey, that's awesome.
Yeah. Now I'm part of the mile club.
There you go.
Part of the 1,000-yard club a while back. Now it's
not with a 50.
Yeah,
with a 6.5. That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty cool. So I'm super impressed with the capability of it, and I'm really happy that I had the opportunity because there's really not a lot of places you can go shoot a mile. So.
Do you know how many people hit at a mile?
No, I don't.
I was just curious.
Kelly did with the 6.5 as well.
Oh, cool.
He has kind of a fancy 6.5 that's got like a B in its name. I can't remember the name of the gun.
Okay.
But anyway, he was shooting the round that I was. So we were shooting factory ammo. It was it was Hornady, 140 grain, ELD, extreme long distance, or
ELD, same as the match.
Nah.
No.
Anyway. ELR, maybe.
Good stuff.
Extreme long range. I don't know. Anyway, 140 grain, 6.5 Creedmoor that Hornady makes. It's a really good round.
Yeah.
They actually just changed the box.
Threw you for a loop.
Yeah, there's some other variable that got changed on when we were reading the box specs.
Oh, they've changed it.
Well, so something was different. Some kind of velocity change or velocity shift after 500 yards or something looked different than the variable on the box that I was using before. So you always want to try to use the same ammo too,
Yeah.
You can even get as crazy as like making sure everything you're using and have dope on is from the same lot number on ammo. So there's a lot of different things when it comes to that.
I think a lot of that trickles down too, because I know a lot of guys with ARs they'll zero with really good ammo, and then they'll shoot with like steel cased crap.
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm like 4 inches off. It's like, well, it's totally different ammo.
Yeah. So, I mean, for the most part, the dope that I was getting on my Kestrel was pretty much on. I did have to make some shifts when I got out to, because there was a target in a mile, and then there was one at. So they set out targets in meters. So one was at 1,000 meters, 1,200 meters, 1,400 meters, and 1,600 meters, which is a mile. And then the 14 calculated out to like 1,500 something yards. So that was the target I was shooting at before the mile.
Gotcha.
So I kind of like stepped it out,
I would like us as a community to agree upon yards or meters.
I know.
Because it's like, oh, what's that zeroed at? Oh, 100 yards. Oh, this one's 200 meters. It's like, hey, why don't we just pick one?
Yeah. I prefer yards when it comes to shooting stuff, but that's just, I think, because I've kind of...
Well, nobody prefers feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, what are you shooting at? Oh, like 4,000 feet.
5,280 feet.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what a mile is, I think.
I think it was around there, yeah. I can't remember the exact number, but...
Yeah. Anyway. But, yeah, it's a cool accomplishment, and feels awesome to have that done. And
I bet.
Now I get to cross that off. But, yeah, I mean, fundamentals definitely come into play. So, especially when it comes to precision rifle, the fundamentals you learn when you're shooting a pistol just are magnified when it comes to shooting precision rifle, because all those little variables come into play. The wrong pull on a trigger, the wrong way you're putting pressure on the stock as it's recoiling. All those variables come into play. So, you want to make sure everything happening to the rifle before the bullet leaves the gun is just perfect. So that...
Well, yeah, it's interesting because you're talking about, like, you're holding over 70 feet, above the target, and, like, you're on the bipod, correct? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, like, just a small adjustment relatively where the gun is can be the difference between 70 feet.
Oh, yeah.
That's an insane distance.
Yep.
So, like, one little tiny mistake here, just, like, as you graph it, it gets further and further apart.
Yeah, a mile, think of, an inch thrown off.
Yeah.
At 100 yards magnified at a mile is,
a big miss.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aim small, miss small.
Yeah. 17.6 inches? Is that right?
Probably.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not, like I said.
Someone that knows math, check me out.
Not my forte.
But yeah, I had a great time and
awesome.
Got to see a lot of interesting things as well. We went out to this ranch where the match was being held, and they blew up 2 cars with tannerite, and someone had a bowling ball cannon out there. So basically, it was like a mortar that they had. So they converted like an oxyacetylene / helium tank. You can imagine those big tanks.
Oh yeah.
They kind of like chopped it off, and I guess that dimension is perfect for a bowling ball, because I didn't know this either. All bowling balls are the same size. Did you know that?
What do you mean?
They're all the same size.
No.
Yes.
Surely not.
Yeah. They're different weights, but they're all the same size. So think about it. Like the ball return has to be, all the balls have to be the same size.
That's really blowing my mind right now. That's crazy.
And think about it. So if you were bowling and your ball was a little larger, you would actually get a bonus, an advantage on bowling, because you might pick up another pin because of that.
We just blew so many people's minds. Or it's like common knowledge and I just didn't know.
I know, it blew my mind. I was like, what?
Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Well, now I don't feel so bad about going for the little girly 10-pound ball.
Yeah, all the same size. Yeah, just matters how much weight you want to throw around. But yeah, so they had that rigged up, and they were literally like, it was like a musket, putting black powder in it and tamping it down and igniting
Needless
it.
to say, not OSHA approved.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I stood way far away.
Yeah, that's a good call. As long as the guy has all his fingers and toes, maybe he knows what he's doing. But it's the guy missing the arm, at the wrist.
Right.
Like,
we were very far away from the car explosions too, so I have never seen cars blown up by tannerite before.
Like redneck Mythbusters.
Yeah, I did this weekend. It was a sight. I'll say that. But yeah, and then the match went really good. I got a bunch of first round hits, which was cool. I felt pretty good about that.
Yeah.
Those were more at like 350, 500, 550, 600-ish range where I was getting first round hits, but then, it kind of fell apart a little bit after that.
Well, I mean,
out to 1,000.
600 yards is a good distance.
Yeah. So there was basically different targets you were engaging, and it was actually a lot easier to compete in this match than everything else I've ever shot, because they let us range the targets first.
Oh, hey, that's nice.
And get the distences, and then, I had my dope based on the distances, so all I had to do was
just dial this in real quick.
I know, I felt like I was cheating, It was like, is everybody...
Felt dirty using a
really?
rangefinder.
Yeah. Like, are we really doing this? But, yeah, it was interesting. But, yeah, that Sig Kilo 2000 I have is a pretty decent rangefinder. I still like that. That's still been performing pretty good. I did have that issue at Mammoth where... I don't know if it was the cold, the negative, whatever. Yeah. 13 degrees.
Sounded like it was the cold.
Yeah. We were down way below 0 that night, so I think it definitely had an effect on performance. But
Which is good because you shouldn't be out in that kind of temperature.
No,
Let's just be honest.
No one has any business in that kind of temperature.
Stay inside.
I'm trying to get, or people are trying to sucker me into doing Mammoth again, and they're not doing it in Kentucky again. They're doing it in Georgia this year. So.
Oh, okay, that wouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, it's a little flatter, not as cold.
Yeah.
I don't know. Thinking about it. I think I'll do it. All right, thanks for tuning in to Gear Tasting Radio. Remember, new episode every Tuesday on iTunes. I'm sorry, Apple Podcasts. I'm never going to get that right.
Or wherever you get your podcasts.
Wherever you get your podcasts, that's where we're at. Be sure to head over there to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. We'd love to hear what you think about the show. Be sure to subscribe while you're there, and then tune in every Tuesday, new episodes. And then if you like what we're doing here, I would hope you like what we're doing.
Hope so.
You've endured close to 30 minutes of us rambling about precision rifles, so hopefully you like what you listen to.
Sorry, not sorry.
If not, maybe this is your first episode and you hate us already. But if you don't hate us and you'd like to support the show, head over to patreon.com/ITStactical. We would love your support. And again, check the episode intel. We'll put up some stuff on what we talked about, some precision rifle links, put some links on that go into the build that we did with precision rifle, and you can see all that stuff too. Thanks for listening.